People who lost a loved one because of a funny or ironic death. What happened? My grandma dropped dead at the dinner table one night and my mom faked CPR to the 911 operator. Grandma lived with my parents for 5 years before she died, and they discovered that grandma didn't shower or brush her teeth or wash her hands after using the bathroom. She'd always get shit everywhere and it was always under her nails. Needless to say, when she died my parents called 911. The 911 operator instructed my mom to give grandma mouth to mouth. My mom, the most honest person I know, couldn't do it. Instead my mom faked it and lied to the operator, saying she did it. Needless to say, grandma didn't wake up. Don't freak out, grandma had congestive heart failure and she was a DNR, but, in the moment, nobody thought of that. We still make jokes saying mom killed grandma. Yeah, my family is fucked up like that. They actually teach compression-only CPR now as an option if you don't feel comfortable doing breaths. Breaths help, but the pushing gets it done. I took a CPR training course and they now have this rubber sheet you place over the person's mouth. It has a small hole in the middle for the air to travel. They gave me one and I gave it to my mom, which she now keeps in the kitchen drawer. My dad died while in work. His heart just stopped suddenly. He was the only one in his work trained to use the defibrillator. That's just poor planning. My cousin died in a hang gliding accident a few months before the movie Wedding Crashers came out. For those who haven't seen it, Will Ferrell delivers a line in the movie. He died in a hang gliding accident? What an idiot. My brother died literally minutes after having sex with a girl. It wasn't funny at the time, but he would have high-fived himself. Why did he die, if I'm not too cocky to ask? Previously undiagnosed heart condition. He had something called papillary fibroelastoma, which is a tumor in the heart valve. I have a friend who almost died that way. He's got a weak blood vessel in his brain and has to take medication now, otherwise when he comes his brain might explode. Not a person, but my boyfriend and I lost a beloved dog because he tripped over her and fell on top of her. He's a big guy. I tried to talk about it a couple times right after it happened, but yeah, people laughed their asses off. Not even so much as a sorry since it was just a dog, I guess. Now I generally tell people that she died in an undisclosed accident. I actually just posted this the other day, last comment before this thread, but I lost a kitten when my mom sat on her. My best friend laughed when I told him. It was more than just a cat and I kind of stopped talking to him after that. It wasn't just that, but that kind of pushed me to end the relationship. My grandfather's heart was 96% clogged for the last 10 years of his life. He had diabetes and 2 forms of cancer. When they found the cancer, he asked the doctor what he should do. The doctor said, "Well, if you don't treat it, it'll kill you in 3 years." Then he shrugged and said, "But, I wouldn't worry about planning that far ahead." One day, he called up the whole family and said, "This is it, I can feel it. This is the moment I am going to die." So everybody came out to be with him. We have family in the Arctic, in Thailand and in China, and they all came to Ontario to be with him. We sat and talked to him and tried to say comforting things. Personally, I said, "How are you doing, Gramps?" He said, "I'm dying, how the hell do you think I'm doing?" We all stood by his side that night waiting for him. And then the next night. By day 3, my uncle started to get impatient. He started saying, "I've really got to go to work on Monday." The people who held out the longest stayed for a week, all just sort of waiting for him to die, but he never did. Eventually, though, everyone had to go back to their own lives, and plus we were getting bored, so we all moved on. 3 months later he called again and said he was dying again, but we weren't going to fall for that trick twice. It turned out he was telling the truth that time. Husband's best friend died of 4 bee stings not knowing he was allergic. He was in his 40s, showed hubby a Parks and Recreation episode to try and cheer him up or distract him. Unfortunately, it was the episode where they knocked down the wall to Eagleton during a press conference and a swarm of bees come out and everyone's running and screaming, "Bees!" Busted out laughing, then looked over to see him cringing. Crap. I tried. My great-grandmother died by slipping on a banana peel, falling into the corner of a table, and puncturing her lung on it. People try really hard not to laugh when I tell them. My friend's grandmother also died by banana peel. Not only was she a survivor, but she had beaten cancer twice and was sharp as a tack while still being very healthy. At the age of 87, She was taking a food tray back to the kitchen from her bedroom where her bedridden husband was. At the top of the stairs, the banana peel fell off the tray, she slipped on it and fell down the stairs. She broke her hip and later died due to complications a few days later. I initially laughed when my friend told me. She laughed too. A friend of mine was an athlete, with an amazing body, six-pack and all of that jazz. Didn't smoke, drank occasionally. Dropped dead in the middle of the night, in his dorm room, due to a natural heart attack. Doctors said his case was very rare, and is seen only in athletes. In layman's term, his heart attack was because of his fitness. A guy I went to college with was super fit, he collapsed at the end of a small, lengthwise, triathlon. They couldn't revive him. Poor guy was 21, everyone was shocked. Another story was a kid at my school, he would have been 16 or 17, also super fit, one of the top athletes at school, went into cardiac arrest while in the pool at our yearly swimming carnival. The teachers got him out and performed CPR on him until the paramedics arrived and he lived. He has a pacemaker now because of it, but it was terrifying to witness. My mother-in-law's grandfather was born in the Philippines in 1898, he lived to be 105. He survived the Spanish occupation. He survived the American occupation, he survived the Japanese occupation. He survived the Spanish-American Way, he survived the Philippine-American War, he survived World War II. He survived being poor his entire life, in a jungle town in a developing country. He outlived some of his kids and grandkids and even a great-grandchild. And, though rather senile in the end, was still running around town till his very last. He accidentally drank paint thinner, thinking it was gin. He had hundreds of descendants by that point. Even though his passing was tragic, it was hard to say he left too soon. A good family friend died by choking on a non-inflated balloon. She was elderly and trying to blow up balloons for a baby shower. It was ironic because she worked as a clown for over 10 years when she was young. I thought it was a joke when I first heard what happened. Just curious, if you don't mind answering, how did she choke on a non-inflated balloon? You said she was blowing them up, so did it flip into her mouth and she choked? Or did she put it in her mouth herself? I'm not trying to sound like a smartass, I'm actually curious. If I remember correctly, she was holding one in her mouth while she did something and breathed in. It got lodged in her throat and she choked. I had a coworker whose mother died in a freak accident. She'd been rushing to go to work, got in the car, started it and realized that she left her purse on the ground behind her car. She got out of the car, bent over to pick up her purse and her car suddenly rolled backwards and ran over her, killing her instantly. A week later my coworker was trying to distract himself by watching TV and saw 6 Feet Under was on. That was his mom's favorite show, so he stopped and decided to watch it. If you've seen that show you know there's a death at the beginning of the episode. The death that episode? A guy getting run over by his own car. He said it was so shocking and ironic that he couldn't help but laugh about it. Oh God, I was a student teacher with this year 10 class. You talk through the class list with the supervisor before you start, to see if there are any kids with major issues. All the kids were doing well, except this one girl. She came from a heavily religious family, which is rarer in Australia, and the year before, her popular and smart older sister had gone home from school one day and hanged herself in her room. The book that had been assigned to the year 10 cohort for the term, and that I had to teach for 4 weeks? Sophocles' play Antigone. This concerns 2 sisters, Ismene and the older Antigone. Towards the end of the play, faced with a hopeless future, Antigone hangs herself. My supervisor went to the department head, who refused to change the play for something else. The last week of that study unit was crazy awkward, although to her credit, the student was very calm and balanced about the whole thing. My grandfather had lost his legs and used a scooter to get around. He was always a prankster and loved to have fun and joke around. His final act was trying to scare someone at a party. He was trying to sneak up on my uncle, he was going around a small hill and tipped his scooter. Broke multiple bones and died from complications. He thought it was hilarious. He thought his own death was hilarious? Metal. My father died right after telling a dad joke. He had a VTOC at home and made it to the hospital where he stayed for about a week. The doctors said he was improving and one day when we were all there with him he said, "I think there is a person on top of the hospital. All the dogs outside keep saying roof roof." Then all the machines started beeping and he never regained consciousness. We were all very upset, but I'm glad he got one last chance to remind us of the kind of dad he was. Not one of my loved ones, but one of my dad's friend died what I consider to be a funny death. His best friend was a junkie, as was he, and on my dad's birthday, they wanted to do some heroin, but his girlfriend didn't like him doing the heroin, so they climbed up a tree to do it in secret. They got high in both ways and then he fell out of the tree and died. Yeah, doing heroin in a tree seems like one of the fastest ways to get down from the tree. A friend of mine's brother accidentally hung himself on April Fool's Day 5 years ago. He was drunk and was trying to play a joke on his roommate, and he slipped. No one off campus believed his roommate until the next day when he was still dead. April Fool's Day hasn't really been the same since then. It's also my uncle's birthday, so it's just a bittersweet day all around. My friend started a charity based around her brother and underage drinking and that sort of thing. I think about him often. He used to send her 143 for I love you, and she takes a picture every time she sees those numbers and says he's watching over her. I love it. Sorry, I don't know how to ask this without it sounding morbid, and that is not what I am intending, but how do you guys know it was an accident? It's easier for my friend to assume that it was an accident. We're not 100% sure, other than the fact that he didn't show any signs of depression. Not a death, but an injury. I also don't have to cope too bad, but I think it's kind of funny, but shitty at the same time. My brother had surgery on his torn left rotator cuff. This meant he had to do everything right-handed, which was a problem for him because he's left-handed. He must not have adapted to the change too well, because about 2 weeks after the surgery he was using his right arm to get out of his chair and tore his right rotator cuff. A friend of mine died while in a grave. No one else seemed to think it was funny, so I kept it to myself. Edit, goddammit. I wasn't too keen on telling this story, but it's my fault for bringing it up and doubly so for not using a throwaway. Just do me a favor, if you're some kind of Google wizard and you think you've got the story, don't post it. It would be disrespectful to the family, I think. Honestly, he was probably my most likely friend to be on Reddit, so it probably won't get back to anyone, so here goes. Some of the details are a little hazy because you don't want to go around asking people to give you the nitty-gritty of a tragic accident. The stuff that was unclear I did not drag anyone through clearing up. Basically, he worked at a graveyard. It's my understanding he was either digging the grave or placing the headstone. He was alone despite having asked for help several times, so when something got stuck he got out of the machine and down into the grave to dislodge it. Machine fell on him. Crushed him dead. Scrawny little dude. When the mortician was done with his chest he looked like a fucking linebacker, which was unsettling. There you have it. My 100-year-old great-grandfather fell while walking without his walker. He insisted he was fine, but the nursing home insisted he go to the hospital for a checkup just to be sure. No broken bones, but he contracted pneumonia in the hospital and died from it. Apparently that happens a lot. My best friend died last year. He had osteogenesis imperfecta and fell and broke nearly all the bones in his body, was rushed to the hospital and miraculously survived, was even able to joke and laugh about it. By the next day he'd contracted severe pneumonia and died. Not a loved one, but perhaps relevant. My uncle helped build large generators for remote villages around the world. He was sent to China where the power plant was in mid-construction. He was given a tour and came across a fairly dangerous hole in the floor that went down several stories, when his coworkers started laughing hysterically. When he asked what was so funny, the translator told him that someone had fallen through the hole and died yesterday morning. When he responded why they thought that was so funny, they responded, it was the safety inspector. My nephew went to school with a kid who was swimming in a river in Florida with friends. There were alligators nearby and they would hop out of the water whenever they saw one. The kid was goofing around a little too much and a 10-foot alligator got him. They say it was terrible to see. Like the moment it happened, it was all too real for the kid, who realized his messing around was going to cost him dearly. My brother said, kid being a kid. Gator being a gator. Edit, the kid's name was Brian Griffin if you wanted to Google the news story. Edit, I have no idea what's ironic about this. I'm not a wizard, I just posted it because it came to mind. It was Dead River, that's as close as I can get. Not a death, yet, and not a loved one, but in the course of the last couple of years no less than 3 guys in my organization have been hospitalized because they sucked. Literally, sucked. The first guy had an automatic milking machine or milking robot that suddenly stopped working. He figured, correctly, that there was an issue with the acid that was used in the maintenance of the machine, which apparently was blocked somehow. To get the acid flowing again, he sucked on the pipe that it was supposed to run through. And of course, He promptly swallowed a bunch of it. Cue major damage to his throat, a lengthy stay at the hospital, and now he speaks through one of those robot talking devices. Upside, he lost a lot of weight. A lot of weight. In the course of the next 2 years, this damage repeated itself twice. All of these guys knew each other peripherally, and the 2 other guys had heard about his injury. You'd expect them to learn from his mistakes. But no. Somebody's gonna die from sucking acid soon. I can smell it. Farmers, please think about health and safety in your profession. Don't suck on the acid pipe. My friend made a status almost 2 years ago right after Halloween that read, "Happy Diabetes Awareness Day," pretty much just as a joke. He was found dead a day or 2 later in his apartment. He died from complications due to diabetes. I never even knew he had it. He was not the nicest person, and he was known for being unapologetically sarcastic, so a lot of people were either apathetic or even straight up happy he died. He was also really into shrooms, LSD, and a huge stoner, so many people and even some friends thought he had an accident involving those substances. I keep my sadness over him to myself because most friends weren't very supportive, but looking back at his Facebook page makes me cry hard, and I still to this day wish he would come back. I miss you, Kyle. People were happy he died because he was sarcastic? Jesus, that's heavy. One of my uncles was driving his motorcycle home from work one night and an owl hit him in his face hole. He died. Didn't know him, but that shit's funny. My parents grew up in Pennsylvania, but moved to North Carolina when I was a kid to get away from harsh winters. My father died of a heart attack while shoveling snow in North Carolina. That kills a lot of elderly people up here. They don't do any manual labor all summer. First snowfall comes, they overdo themselves and fall over dead. A guy I knew lost 2 very close family members when they drove off the side of a cliff on a snowmobile. The first time I heard, I cracked up, but when everyone looked at me like I was a monster, I realized they were serious. Well, he took calls for a hotline for 8 years, and then he killed himself. Left a note saying he couldn't live with himself for talking people out of their desires. I bet one of the callers said or did something that just messed him up. Sad irony, lots of support for his loved ones because he did a lot of community service besides taking those calls. Nobody except family was told what his note said. It's just too fucked up. I answered those phones for a week. I can't imagine doing it for 8 years. It's a very hard job to do. I knew a girl who did that. She said the hardest part was that sometimes people would tell such sad stories that she almost didn't want to talk them out of it because almost seemed like the only solution. My great-grandmother, who was very hard of hearing, was hospitalized at 104 years old. All the relatives piled into her room and sat around talking. Suddenly she sat up and said, "Will you people stop yelling? You're interrupting my nap." Then fell back on the pillow dead as a doornail. My father died choking on a pretzel many years ago, before the infamous Bush pretzel incident, if anyone's old enough to remember that. I loved pretzels at the time, ate them every day. Couldn't touch them for about a year after his death, and then suddenly pretzels were okay again. Some of my friends and family were appalled, but what was I supposed to do? Be petrified of pretzels for the rest of my life? People die in all sorts of absurd ways, but any death seems a bit absurd to me. How can a person suddenly not be? It's ridiculous, impossible, yet it's something we all have to deal with at some point, the death of family, friends, loves, and ultimately ourselves. I'd like to say I chose to laugh about it, but really, I didn't have much choice in my reaction. Death is the universe's ultimate joke. I must laugh.